This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com. And right now we have a wonderful guest who has been in WWE, NXT, Lucha Underground, has made an appearance for Impact. She's also an actress and she's very intelligent too, according to some of the topics she studied in her life. None other than Karlee Perez, aka Maxine and Katrina. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. Thank you so much.
And I guess you guys are in LA, which is where you live now, right?
Yes, I do. I do reside in Los Angeles.
How long have you been living in LA for?
Several years now, actually.
And that's to pursue your acting dream.
Acting and I'm producing full time film and television. So just being here kind of makes sense, although I do miss Florida a lot.
Yeah, that's impressive. I saw some other interviews with you where you said you were getting into the producing of film and television, but so I guess now you're right into it.
Yep, I'm right into it now. I spent a few years buying up intellectual property IPs, they're called, and life rights. And I package projects together with writers and directors and actors. I currently have a project right now with Wilmer Valderrama and his company. Lots of true crime stories, a few inspirational stories, but right now I have a slate of true stories. So, and I love it.
So this is exactly why you're not in wrestling anymore. Are you considering yourself retired now?
I don't know. You never know these days, I guess. It just depends what would be the opportunity.
Now, you mentioned you're from Florida. Could you tell us a little bit about your childhood and growing up in Florida?
Well, I was born in Tampa. My family came from Cuba and Sicily, and my mother's from Hawaii. I spent time in Michigan as well, but I moved back to Florida at the age of 17, and I went to college to become a police officer. And then I started wrestling. I think I was maybe just turning 20 years old, must have been 19. And yeah, Florida was great. I mean, like I said, I do miss it a lot now. I get a little homesick, but I started at FCW at a fairly young age and kind of just went from there.
Now, I heard you were hired from a mutual family friend that had a contact into the WWE that got you the tryout. Could you tell us how that situation came up? Because I understand you weren't like a huge super fan that always wanted to be a wrestler or anything. You had gone to college to be a police officer, as you said.
Right. It was not plans. Wrestling was not plans, but I definitely fell in love with entertainment in general, and wrestling and being able to perform was a big thing for me. Yeah, it was a mutual family friend named Lou Maggio, and John Laurinaitis contacted Lou after he saw photos of me, and the rest kind of was history after that. I tried out, and I happened to live only 5 minutes from FCW, which at the time was the only training facility they had. And I felt it was meant to be. I was so close, and the opportunity presented itself. And they asked me if I wanted to come try out, and I did. And they kicked my ass definitely for a few weeks. After about a month, they offered me a contract.
As far as how you reacted to the pro wrestling training, did you feel comfortable right away, or were you kind of guessing yourself at first, or what was your
Oh yeah,
reaction?
I definitely was not comfortable right away. It's not, but my personality is, I don't stop things until I feel I'm done, until I feel I've accomplished and finished what I've started. So there was no stopping me at the time when I was trying out, and things were frustrating. I could barely walk because physically I was just beat up. It's a different kind of physicality. I was an athlete my whole life, but that training is on another level. You're using muscles you've never even used before. So I could barely walk. I remember having to get massages every other day just in between my tryouts, just to be able to walk into the ring again the next day. It was definitely rough. I saw a lot of people quit. A lot of people didn't make it to a second day, but I just kept going and I stuck through it. It was intimidating when you don't know anything and you're starting from scratch and people are looking down on you for that. But I earned my stripes and respect and I just kept going. And I found my strengths, not just in the ring, but definitely in development and characters and promos, which probably explains a lot of what I'm doing now. So, and I felt that that was something in FCW that was definitely missing. And Dusty Rhodes definitely helped me see that and own in on it and get better, which I felt I definitely did during that time.
How was the behind the scenes environment there at that time? Because now we see Triple H is actively recruiting wrestlers with zero in ring experience. But
Right.
back then it was a much smaller percentage. So was there jealousy? Did you have to kind of work your
Oh,
way
yeah.
into the cliques?
I definitely had to work my way in. People were messing around with me. I was getting ribbed all the time. It was definitely a lot of jealousy happening. Um, your stuff gets thrown out of the locker room. People are doing things on purpose just to irritate you. It was definitely a lot of stuff. But eventually you stick around and you're no longer the new person. So that's what happened. I developed good friendships with people. I did the work. I put in the time. I showed up. So if you do that, there's not much they can say.
Tom Pritchard has a podcast that airs on this channel. Was he working at FCW at all during the time you were there?
He sure was. I was with Tom every day. I was with Dusty every day. I was with Norman Smiley every day. Those were the guys that were there.
And I understand you had a special connection with Dusty that actually translated to you and him watching movies together and stuff, but he took a special liking to you and saw you as a star right away.
He did. And if it wasn't for him, I don't even know what, I obviously my career in WWE was cut short when I left. But I think Dusty was my biggest fan and I know he stood up for me and would tell, the bosses that you're just not paying attention. You need to see what she has, what makes her unique, what makes her good. And he always backed me on that. And yeah, we have a love for film. Once again, explains what I'm doing now. Dusty had a major love for film. So we would sit and talk shop, not just about wrestling, but about film and new movies that were coming out and why we love them and the characters and the storylines. And my favorite days were promo classes, which were Dusty's favorite. And, he always gave me A+ across the board when it came to my promos. And it was just something, it was definitely just something there. And everyone knew it. They knew I was his favorite. And they gave me shit about it, but it's okay. He was good to me and he saw things in me that maybe I didn't even see in myself at the time. Eventually I would grow into that. So.
And you eventually did something with Goldust too, didn't you? Dustin Rhodes, Dusty's son.
Thanks. Yeah, I think a little bit when he was with Oksana, I think. Yeah, I think something small there while we were in NXT.
Was that Dusty's influence at all, putting you with
I
the
don't
son?
think so, but both both Cody and Gold, they both knew how much, how close I was. They used to make jokes, to me of how close I was to their father. So.
And I understand one of the first wrestlers you were with was Sweet Poppy Sanchez, who I actually was tag team partners with him when he was Black Pain. They gave him kind of a weird gimmick in WWE. How was that experience?
That was fun. He was a nice guy. I had no idea what the hell I was doing at the time, but he was very nice. I think that was a total joke for me because they they called me the candy girl, right? And I literally just passed out candy. Um, it was definitely just probably very easy money. I'll tell you that much. Passing out Tootsie Rolls is definitely an easy paycheck.
Were you? I guess you were there from the evolution of FCW into it becoming NXT. What was
Yes.
that evolution like, and the process of switching from kind of it grew hugely between FCW and NXT. It seems like.
It did. It did. And I think it probably took away the the village, the small community feel that you would get at FCW with in the locker room with the people and just it was different before they blew it up into NXT and went over to Orlando. And I, was part of the first female group of NXT. So we definitely watched it grow into what it was becoming. And I think by the time I left WWE, it was just starting in Orlando. So it definitely changed the feel of the development division of it.
Who were some of the wrestlers training with you at that time that went on to become major stars over the years? I think Sheamus is one of them, and Ryback to a lesser extent.
All of them that are up there, all of them. I mean, I was with Roman Reigns, I was with Sheamus, I was, so many of them that are pretty much the chunk of them that are there now. I came up with in the FCW. And then there's a chunk that is no longer in the company at all. I mean, I came up with Naomi, I came up with AJ. The Bellas were just getting out of FCW on the road when I was starting. Some of the guys, Ryback was with me. There was a good chunk of people there that are still strong in the business.
Do you have any experiences with Roman Reigns you could share with us now that he's kind of the top guy in WWE?
Roman was always a nice guy. I mean, he was always fun to work with. We literally came up together in FCW, and he was a solid guy. He has a great look, and I knew he was going to do great things in the company, which he has. Sheamus was massively talented and still is, and a sweetheart. And same goes for him. Nobody's really quite like Sheamus. So, I mean, it was a solid crew of talent at that time.
Could you see even then that they were kind of grooming Roman Reigns to be something other than just your average wrestler?
Yeah, you can tell. They pick and choose who they want, and who you can definitely tell who they pick and choose. They make it pretty obvious if you just watch, right?
And as far as the Bellas, I believe you did work with them before. What were they like to be in the ring with, and how were they backstage?
When I first went up to to be honest, when I first went up to the road, the girls were pretty nasty backstage. Not the nicest. The majority of the girls were pretty rough to work with. Eventually people started to warm up, but and I never really believed in all that. Like I was nice to everybody. I don't really believe in doing the whole new person or someone new comes up and you have to be mean to them. I think it's very childish personally. So I didn't really ever do that. And I definitely didn't do it when I went on to Lucha. And I was, looked at as one of the main people in Lucha, and I didn't treat anybody that way that came in new. I just don't really roll that way. But maybe in front of the camera, you guys would think that, but I definitely am not that way backstage.
Yeah, a lot of people think because wrestling is a performance that all the wrestlers are friends backstage, but they don't
Definitely not.
realize the political atmosphere behind there.
Yeah, definitely not. And just people can be very childish backstage, and we're all adults here.
Yeah, in wrestling, there's a lot of adults that act like children, and it's just the way it is sometimes, I guess, in that industry. But as far as AJ Lee, she seems like she may have been one of the nicer ones. She seems to have a nice personality outside the ring. Would I be correct on that?
She was all right.
Okay.
Naomi was my favorite. Naomi was the most authentic, real person at that time that was there. Definitely just all around an authentic person.
Was Sasha Banks back there as well?
No, Sasha came way after it. Sasha came after me.
Okay. At one point, you were general manager. Was that something that Dusty had on a petition for to get you that role?
Yeah, Dusty really believed that he was really pushing for me to be a strong character, a strong leader. He was really pushing for me to be one of the GMs for SmackDown or Raw. That's why he built me up as a GM in FCW. Like I mentioned, my strengths were definitely on the mic, and I utilized that. We don't think that they utilized it the way Dusty wanted them to. And that was fine. Eventually that's one part of the reasons why I left. I felt it made me stand out a lot more than the other girls. And I wanted to concentrate on things that made me different. And that was one of the things that made me different, which later on you would see in Lucha Underground with Katrina.
At one point, I guess William Regal ended up taking over the GM position. Did you like working with him?
Yeah, William was great. He was a very interesting guy. I never know what he's thinking. He's very hard to read. I gave William Regal a foot massage on television. I remember that. But very, very, very interesting guy.
Who came up with the name Maxine when they changed you over to that name?
That was Vince. Apparently, it was one of Vince's favorite names. I have no idea why. Wasn't the biggest fan of it personally, but it stuck, and I had to ride with it. Took me a minute to get used to hearing the name because I was Liviana for quite a while in FCW, so it took a minute.
I've heard you say you felt like you had to be like a yes man or yes woman in WWE to have success. What do you mean by that?
Oh, you definitely do. Yeah. And I have a problem with doing that. I was very stubborn. I'm still stubborn, but it's a little different now as I've gotten older, but I was stubborn then. If you don't say yes to everything, you definitely won't get doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how talented you are or how hard you work. It's really who plays the game, as they would say.
And I also heard you say you didn't like having your fate controlled by people who weren't necessarily all there.
Definitely not. They're nuts over there. Yeah. I'm good. It's not why you're putting it in hands. Look, it's an incredible monopoly. It's an incredible business. It's gone on forever. Obviously, it's going to continue to go. But there is a massive political agenda, and you are putting everything in those people's hands, and anything could set them off. If you don't shake someone's hand, it could set. It's just very juvenile stuff. You don't shake someone's hand, it could set them off. You don't say hi to someone, it could set them off. You wear something wrong, it could set them off. I mean, it's just stuff that really shouldn't be dictated. Shouldn't dictate somebody's entire career or life.
Yeah, what's your theory on the handshaking thing? I guess they're not doing as many shows now, but I always found it weird back when they were doing like 5 shows a week that every day you'd have to shake every single person's hand every time you see them. Or
Control. It's a control mechanism. It's all about control. You do what we say when we say it and how we say it. And if you don't, this is what happens. And the rules change daily. Everything changes daily. It's not consistent. There's really no other reason to go around and shake everybody's hand. It's just the control thing. It's a small little cult, if you may.
Who was writing NXT when you were working for NXT? Was it still mostly Dusty, or were there other people involved as it grew from the FCW days?
I remember other people being involved. They would switch out. They would switch out the agents. Like, there was times I had Arn. There was times I had Ricky Steamboat. There was times they brought in Freddie Prinze Jr. There was just a random group of people, different people. I worked with Dean Malenko. I mean, Kidman was an agent a lot for the women. It was just a lot of different groups of people.
As far as Freddie Prinze Jr., because you're also an actor, did you find any connection with him when you were working with him at all, more than the other agents?
You know what? I just appreciated now. Funny enough, I actually now am working with people Hollywood's a small circle, a small group, just like wrestling is. So I'm actually a part of things right now that he's a part of. So it's kind of funny, but I appreciated how passionate he was. When people in Hollywood there's a lot of fans in Hollywood. They're fans of the wrestling business, and you just don't even realize it. It's people you don't even think of. I've been in pitch meetings, or I've sat down with people, or people come up to me at premieres and they're like huge wrestling fans. I'm like, really? Wow. It's just people you just randomly wouldn't think of. I just had a project of mine is in the hands with one of the heads at Paramount Plus, and he's a massive wrestling fan. It's just stuff like that you just wouldn't put together. And Freddie is a massive wrestling fan. I mean, he actually has a podcast, a wrestling podcast, like, which is great. It's cool. So Freddie's great. I mean, he was a really, really nice guy.
Now, you've alluded to some of the issues you had up to this point. You still seem to be used fairly well through most of your tenure with WWE. What was it that led to you quitting? Because I understand you had more time left on your contract.
I did have more time left, and I just wanted, this is like an even trade. Look, let's just let me go, and we don't have to keep the contract. You keep the money, and we just get out. From what I remember, I was just getting very frustrated. They were messing with me. They were trying to change my look. They were trying to change my gear because somebody didn't like it, or politically somebody didn't like it. It was just always something. They wanted me to go back to FCW after I'd already spent years there, and there was no reason for me to go back. It was just this game. And eventually I was like, well, how long am I going to play the game? And where is this game going to lead? Am I going to play the game and just do what they say? And I was watching other people who were there way less and had way less experience get paid way more or do other, get their pushes for, once again, political reasons or someone they may have been dating or something they've done. And I just ended up wanting to remove myself from the situation.
Did they have any issues with releasing you? Because you hear nowadays, of course, some people go about it the wrong way by publicly asking for it and getting denied. But what was their reaction when you told
They
them
were
how
very
you
surprised, actually, and they kept asking, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" I didn't. It took them a while to like really do it, and then it was okay, But I was very respectful doing it. I didn't cause a huge scene. I just went into the office and told them. I didn't make it a big deal. I kept my mouth shut. I didn't go and bash them or anything afterwards. So I don't think there was too many hard feelings. I think they're just more so I can't believe you're leaving type of deal. Like they're not used to people leaving them. So I think that was probably one of the things for them.
You mentioned it was Johnny Ace that hired you. Of course, he's been released recently due to the huge controversy. Did you ever suspect that he would have that side to him, or was it always very professional?
What's the controversy? I don't even know the controversy.
Oh, apparently, I'm surprised you don't know this. Vince McMahon had numerous
Oh yeah, that
affairs.
I'm very aware of. I've
Yeah.
been getting calls from the New York Times and the Washington Post because apparently I'm one of the only women that didn't sign an NDA.
Well, one of the women that Vince McMahon had an affair with, I guess, had an affair with Johnny Ace after.
Yeah, that
And
makes a lot of sense.
some of this money was used to hush money for Johnny Ace as well. So
Yes, that I'm very aware of. And no, I am not surprised at all.
okay. So as far as Lucha Underground, how did you get recruited into that federation, which I guess is more of a TV show than a wrestling company? So it sounds like it may have been more up your alley.
Yeah, well, it gave me two things I love. I was able to do both things freely and also, creatively. Everything works better when it comes to entertainment. If you're doing things as a team creatively, it's just going to be better. Whether it's wrestling or film or TV, it doesn't matter. Things are just going to come together better. When you start to have friction and things get sloppy and messy, it shows. Lucha, I was called by Krista Joseph, who was a very big fan of mine when I was in WWE. So DeJoseph kind of pitched me Lucha, and then it was within, like, he did the soft pitch on the phone. I was like, well, that sounds amazing. And then when he said Robert Rodriguez, I'm like, even more amazing, because I was a massive fan of Robert as a director. He's an incredible director. And then Conan also, was speaking to me about it. And I said, absolutely. I get to move to Los Angeles. You guys are moving me to LA. And during that period of time, I was able to build my representation in Los Angeles with managers and agents. And I was also able to do film and TV outside of Lucha. I wasn't exclusive the way you are in WWE. So it couldn't have been better, really. And it's just that it was a better product. I mean, it just was. The stories are better. The wrestling was amazing. The feel was amazing. There's nothing quite like it. In front of the live audience at Lucha was completely different. And backstage was way more chill. Everyone was super supportive and great. It was just a better way of working, for sure.
What were the main differences backstage between Lucha Underground and WWE?
Everything. There is no going around and you're not walking on eggshells. You're constantly walking on eggshells in WWE, and we didn't run the locker rooms like that or backstage with Lucha. You're comfortable, you're chill. You don't have to worry about shaking everybody's hand. You don't have to worry about looking at somebody wrong. You don't have to worry about missing a hello. It's just being chill and good and support each other and have good matches and do good work and definitely definitely build good characters and have great backstage segments, which we did. Is completely different. It was ran differently. It was ran more like a TV show, and it shows because you could tell by watching it and just by working with the people that it was just a better workplace, a better work environment, which I know numerous people have said over the years.
And of course, you worked very well with Mil Mortes there. Was that something you had a say in before of who you wanted to manage as they were recruiting you, or did you just show up and be given the script and you're managing him?
Yeah, they introduced me to him. Me and Mill didn't know each other, but we clicked, very much like me and Bateman clicked in my WWE days. And we worked very well together and we understood each other. And that was it. They saw the chemistry and the writers and, Robert and the heads of Lucha loved it. And I came up with the lick of death. I just pitched it to them and it turned into a massive thing and they loved that. And they gave me a lot of freedom and suggestions. And they even offered me a writing position at one point in time. They were so happy with my ideas, which was very flattering. And it just showed me that I was on the right path and everything Dusty saw in me in the first place was there. And WWE just didn't appreciate it, and Lucha did.
As far as the scriptedness of Lucha Underground, were the matches very scripted too, or was it mostly just the actual dialogue?
Even no. Everybody was so good and at such a high level. Like they weren't that strict about the matches being perfectly scripted. They were intense. Like we had intense matches, and when you're at that kind of level, you can maneuver and do things and not get in trouble for it. Like it was great because that's what made the matches so good. I would be out there when I was managing, and I'm just like, holy shit. Like I would see things I'm seeing everything for the first time, just like the audience. I had no idea what was going to happen. And my job is to pay attention and to see things and take advantage of moments. And when you are at that level and you're working with other people at that level, you're able to do that.
Did you end up taking the offer to help work behind the scenes for the company?
I was a little intimidated, to be honest with you, because I didn't want to take away my concentration on myself and my character, and then what I was doing outside of Lucha Underground. So I told them let's just continue to talk. I'll continue to give you ideas, and we did. Like it wasn't a big deal to me just to share my thoughts and ideas without getting that extra paycheck. I actually enjoyed it. So, and then a lot of the wrestlers started coming to me and asking me for thoughts and ideas, which I was flattered and appreciated, and I was more than happy to help them through that. A lot of people in WWE, they don't do that, so it was nice to have that kind of respect with each other there.
I understand Vampiro was one of the people working in the office there. How was he to work with?
Vampiro's crazy. He's nuts, but he was always great. Always had a lot of fun with Vampiro. Um, he listens. He had great suggestions and ideas. And yeah, he's not. You never know what you're gonna get with Vampiro.
Did you choose the name Katrina or did they choose it?
No, Katrina represented, the culture and the in Mexico, the Day of the Dead, the woman with the mask that is Katrina. So that's why I represented death and then the lick of death. So that that was already for me when I showed up.
Did anyone have any issues taking the lick of death, or is it all very professional, just like an acting set there?
Yeah, very professional. Not one person had issues or complaints. A lot of them would mess with me, especially after. No, it was everybody was super professional about everything.
How was Conan to work with?
Conan was great. I enjoyed working with Conan. And nothing but respectful towards me, and once again, um, kind of like Vampiro. He had great ideas, and he wanted to talk and share them and be collaborative.
You also worked with Ivelisse there, I believe, in her debut match. How was that?
Evilise is wonderful. She's one of my favorite people to work. She works very hard. She's very talented. We can be rough and aggressive. You don't have to worry about her complaining about hitting or doing something too hard. She's very tough. She's great.
Someone on here is asking, how was your experience managing in AAA in Mexico?
In AAA,
Yeah.
when I went to which I'm trying to think of which
Did you go to Mexico to work for Conan there? I think his company that he runs there is AAA.
I think maybe once. It was fine. It was fine. I don't think they always treat their wrestlers, their workers the best, but I had a fine experience.
How are the fans there?
Oh, fans are great. Yeah, fans are great.
Yeah, you always hear about the crime in Mexico. That would be my biggest concern there. If you're,
Definitely.
yeah,
Definitely. It was unfortunate. Like a lot of the guys would come to Lucha and they literally were being robbed right out, leaving matches out of Mexico. It was pretty intense. There's some serious stuff that happened to a few of the people at Lucha there.
yeah. I heard Vampiro was even kidnapped once, like years ago, which is pretty scary. But he
Makes sense.
escaped. Yeah. And I understand you wrestled for Impact in 2014 on
Oh yeah,
on a women's pay-per-view. How was that experience?
that was a lot of fun. Tiffany wrestled Tiffany. Tiffany just had her baby too, which was crazy. The fact that she was even in there. I mean, she was literally had a newborn and was breastfeeding her baby. Like it was just kudos to her. It was fun. We had a great match.
There's a match on this channel because for a while I had a collaboration with Jerry Bostic, and he let me post your match with Selena De La Renta, and it has about 4 million views now.
Oh wow,
from Texas. Do you
that
have
was
any?
funny.
Yeah, do you have any memory of that match?
I think I do. Yeah, I think it was just like that's crazy. It has 4 million views. I'm pretty sure we were just doing like a really fun match. And didn't we do something like in the audience or something?
Yeah. You started with the dancing in the audience, and then started fighting from there.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was a good like entertainment match showing that
Yeah.
like wrestling is entertainment.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were trying to do.
So I'm guessing you're not doing that much on the independent scene anymore.
I haven't. I'm not opposed to it. Maybe it's something I'll start to, kind of dive into, but I haven't recently.
Well, we definitely had some requests to bring you up to Canada sometime, so maybe that's good to know for the fans that have been asking that. Your match with Joey Ryan is another one of your favorite famous matches. How did you like doing that?
These are all matches. It's always the ones you don't ever plan on having that end up being these famous matches. That was a very entertaining match. Yeah. Joey wasn't really expecting me to stick a lollipop up his ass, but that was definitely entertaining.
Yeah, I could imagine that would be a surprise in a match.
Why
As
not?
far as from an acting standpoint, what advice would you give wrestlers as far as should they learn how to act? Should they take acting lessons? I heard you say you learned more from Dusty than you did in your acting lessons once. So, just what's your
Definitely.
whole theory on that? Because I know there's a lot of indie wrestlers that watch this channel.
No, look, guys, d- it's very important. And it's not even so much like learning, it's just being able to pull experiences that you've had in your life and turn them into moments and characters. And I think it's super important. I've always said this. I've said this for years. I don't think enough people take it serious in the wrestling world of how important and how much a character can pull you in. Katrina didn't have to do a lot. I did a lick. I mean, but I believed in my character. I believed in her. I believed she was me and I'm her, and it showed. And I made sure that I did the best of my ability to always stay in character, and I think that's what the fans loved so much about that character, and it's part of what helped with that show. It just proved, the proof is in the pudding. It just proves that having a strong character can pull fans in, sometimes even more so than what's going on in the ring. It's less is more, as Dusty would always say, and it's very true. So small things, the way you walk, talk, there, you don't have to be overkill with things. You just have to be confident in what you're doing.
You seem like a more natural heel. Do you think with your acting skills, you'd be able to pull off a good baby face?
Definitely, I definitely could. Dusty said that was never ever ever going to happen. Look at me. And I remember at the beginning of FCW, I was the only heel at the time. They had no other female heels, so they were all the girls are baby faces, and I used to get upset because they would get cheered and I didn't understand. And until Dusty said, one day you're going to own it, and when you own it, they're gonna love you. And it took me a while to realize that.
I heard you say in another interview from a couple of years ago that you were about to work on a project with Ron Perlman. Did that ever happen?
Yeah, we did do a project together. I think the scene. I think the sizzle and the reel is up on Instagram. It might be down a little bit, but Ron's great. Developed a great friendship, and we stayed in touch, and films and projects I'm working on currently. He's in the talks on, along with other great actors that I'm so excited that I've been able to work with. And some of these actors were Dusty's favorite actors, which I found very touching because now I'm working with these people, and these are people who I used to hear him talk about. So it's kind of nice.
Could you discuss some of the actors you've worked with, maybe on past projects that fans might recognize the names? I think you worked with one from the Shawshank Redemption.
I worked with Gil Bellows from Shawshank, Matt Smith. I did a movie with Ron Perlman. There's a movie out right now on Netflix called Seized, which I shot maybe a year and a half ago in Mexico, and I played Mario Van Peebles' wife. I work with Scott Atkins. I've worked with some amazing, talented people. Right now, like I mentioned, I'm working with Wilmer Valderrama and his company on a project that I actually created and developed. Yeah, I mean, it's been really cool.
Now, when you're talking about creating and development of a project, are you talking about like writing it, casting it, finding the
So
set?
producing it. I do write and create all my decks and develop like the stories and all that. I don't consider myself to be able to sit down and like, I'm a little too ADD to sit down and write full scripts, but I can see the whole story in my mind. I can develop all the arcs and the characters and the whole world. And then what I do is I hire and find the writers. I have a project right now I'm working with. I hired the 2 female writers that wrote Mulan, Disney's Mulan, and they also just wrote Nicole Kidman's new show for Apple. And that project is a true story that I bought the rights to. And then what I do is I develop it, put together a team, the directors, the writers, the actors, and we sell it. So I produce it from scratch to finish. It's called pretty much the development process, which is not easy to do in Hollywood. It can take a long time. Sometimes I don't see a glimpse of light for 2-3 years after working on a project. But the type of projects that I like are very layered and have more depth and stories. They're not just like the typical bang bang shoot 'em project.
As far as funding for that, do you have to find all the funding yourself, or do you work for yeah? Oh boy.
Typically, yeah. So I've been able to develop some strong. If you have strong projects and people start to trust your instincts and your eye, it's very helpful. It's not easy. It's not easy getting funding or money on a project. It costs a lot of money. A script alone, to get a WGA writer, Writers Guild writer to write a script, you're talking a minimum $100,000. So just to get a script written. So you really do have to have quality stuff. And I like quality stuff. So I like to have the reputation to be able to bring quality stuff so then people continue to take meetings with me and want to continue to work with me. So I've had to build those relationships for the funding. Some production companies do development funding, some don't. Some have to be private investors. It's something that you just have to jump in and do it and build.
Did you start at the independent film level, or did you just get into it through contacts to the position that you're at now?
Look, there's I have projects that are on what Hollywood would consider like lower budget. I have ones that are very high budget that I'm working on. There's, I think the lowest one I'm working on right now is $6 million film. So I didn't start on like the there's nothing wrong with this either, guys. I mean, there's some amazing movies out there that are done at a $1 million level. But I didn't start at that. I kind of jumped and went straight for the mid-level style stuff and worked my way up.
Wow, that's very impressive. As far as people that are actors attending casting calls and casting interviews, as an actress and someone that works on the other side, do you have any advice?
It's a hard game. It's a hard game. I would my advice always is to make your own, build your own. So you have some control over the creative and more control over your work. Um, if you're constantly waiting for someone else to give you the opportunity, you could be waiting forever. So you have to make your own opportunities.
Do you have a favorite project that you've been involved with so far in acting, as far as a movie or TV show?
Some of the ones I'm doing, the one I'm doing with Wilmer is probably up there right now. I really enjoyed making C's, the one on Netflix that we shot in Mexico. That was a lot of fun, and I did my own stunts in that too. Um, I mean, I think there's just more this year. There's a lot coming, which I can't say out loud yet, but there's some really good stuff coming. So everyone, just keep your eyes open.
Do you find stunt work is harder than people imagine at fight scenes? Because I've noticed that in the few little things I've done, that you imagine in movies that it's a lot easier than it actually is.
I mean, I think for someone like myself or people that have my back where I came from, right? I'm a professional wrestler. It kind of was, I probably had a bit of an advantage than somebody that just wanted to become a stunt person, which, it's still to this day, I get things brought to me just because I have that advantage. It's definitely not easy, but it does become, I'm probably a little rusty now because it's not like I've been in the ring every single day. It definitely becomes easier when you have a background of doing stunts at a certain level.
Is there a piece of work that might be online of your acting for wrestling fans that may have never seen you act that you would suggest fans maybe take a look at?
Yeah, go check out the one I just mentioned is the most recent, and they can also like see the fight scenes in there, which I'm sure wrestling fans will appreciate. It's called Seized, guys. Seized.
And as far as your favorite professional wrestling matches, did you have a favorite from both NXT and Lucha Underground? And could you tell us why?
Um, well, definitely loved the match I did from with Eve, Eve Elise and Lucha. I think that was really one of my only ones in the years, right? I saw some amazing matches while I was there. And then NXT, I did a lot of different matches. I enjoyed working with Natty. I remember working with Natty a lot. She's wonderful. I did a lot of matches with AJ. Naomi is always one of my favorites to work with. Those are probably like my top that I worked with in NXT.
How many languages do you speak? I notice you have all these ethnic backgrounds.
I know I'm full of ethnic backgrounds. I wish I could speak all of them. I understand. I do Spanish, uh, not fluently. I understand more than I speak, but my family is fluent Spanish, Italian. My grandmothers and my mother is from Hawaii. They're Hawaiian and Chinese. Imagine if I could speak everything that I am. That would be amazing.
Did you have a female wrestling mentor? You mentioned kind of Dusty was your behind the scenes mentor as a male.
Yeah, you know what? It was really Dusty. I didn't really have a female mentor. I have respect for, I was there with Phoenix with Beth. I have huge amount of respect for Beth, and like I said, Natty, they were amazing in-ring wrestlers, and they respected me for my promos and my character. They always were complimenting me on that. Like, we knew each other's strengths. but I really didn't have a mentor female wise. It was really Dusty.
There's a fan on here that wants to know how your relationship was with Melissa Santos.
It was fine. You know, we had a good run there. We had an epic fight scene, and you know, it was some fun storylines.
I know you like doing dramatic movies. Do you have a favorite dramatic movie as far as a viewer?
It's a good question. I'll tell you what, I just binge watched the new show called Beef on Netflix. It's amazing. So everybody go watch Beef. When it comes to like super dramatic films, it just depends on my mood. Some of the best films still for me are like films from the 90s. It seems like everything was better in the 90s.
It seems like there's too much special effects now, and it like takes me out of the movies.
That's true. I don't like that. I'm out. Like I'm out. And if I have to watch like one more, don't hate me guys, but if I have to watch one more like car in space or Dwayne Johnson catching a gorilla, like I can't with all that anymore. I like very grounded stories and just good acting and good storylines.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Batista, and I think he's a good actor, but his last movie, the storyline was just kind of hard to buy. I don't know.
I saw it. Yeah, I couldn't watch the whole thing. And I love Batista. Yeah, I'm gonna 100% agree with you on that. I watched it, I tried. It wasn't very believable for me.
Did you meet him at all when you were working for WWE?
Oh yeah. Yep. And I know, I mean, we're in the same circles in Hollywood. Like I know it's just a matter of time now between us getting face to face here in LA.
Yeah, he's doing great, and it seems like he's he pretty much has eclipsed John Cena, I would say, in acting. Although
I think he's better than. I think Batista's better than Dwayne and Cena.
Did you have any interactions with John Cena?
I haven't seen John. I think that's just a matter of time as well. I haven't seen him in quite a while. I mean, kudos. You know, John is killing it too. I just feel like the path John and Dwayne did, which they're superstars, but it is definitely a certain path. It's not always easy to come back from that style stuff to go and do stuff that I know Batista is concentrating on.
John Hennigan is another wrestler that just had a successful celebrity boxing match, but he was in Lucha Underground, and he's been making movies on his own for a number of years.
Like I said, go do it on your own. You know, if that's what makes him happy, and he wants to continue to do that, I definitely recommend it. He's a very nice guy. He's very talented. He has a great look. I'm sure he'll be just fine.
Just to wind it down here, there's a fan that wants to know what is your opinion on Tyler Rex becoming a transgender? I believe she may have been with you in FCW or NXT.
Yeah, I did come up with Tyler. He was always sorry guys. She was always super sweet. Tyler's wife, Priscilla, was a sweetheart as well. She actually used to make my gear in FCW, funny enough. She used to make gear for me. They were always great. Look, you know, we all have our opinions and thoughts on things, but it doesn't really matter. You're there to do what makes you happy for yourself. It's your life. You only live once, so do it how you want to do it.
Exactly. As far as social media or your website or anything, where can fans look you up?
You guys can find me at Karlee Leilani, both Instagram and Twitter. It's KarleeLeilani.
Very good. And I gotta take a screenshot of you with my dog before we wind it down here because she's been sleeping through most of this. But
So sweet. I'm that person. I like hug and kiss every dog I see and not even say hi to the people walking them.
Yes, dogs are very friendly and lovable animals. Anyways, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much.
The captain has messaged me and telling me I got to cut it short or cut it now.
Thank you for the love. I will talk to you soon.
Very good information. And yeah, I'll let you close this with whatever you want to say to the fans.
No, thank you guys so much. Keep your eyes out. We have some good stuff coming out in the next probably 6 months.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews.